I am basically starting the mastering sessions for what's going to be the next album. There'll be some stuff in here that no one's heard. There'll be stuff in here that you've seen the making of on the channel. There are 2 tracks I've excluded because I just wanted like something completely new that no one's heard when it all finally comes out. And the idea of this is like we're trying to get everything to be a cohesive project. So I'm not mastering an individual track. I need to get levels to be relatively consistent. I can't just smash it because it's going to be a single going to Beatport. I've got to get a consistent flow in levels. I'm going to be looking at the stop and starting, so the top and tail side of things, as well as the track flow. I haven't fully decided on the track flow yet. And that's about it really, getting everything to sound consistent, cohesive, level wise, track flow, all that jazz. I am going to use Ozone 11 hell of a lot, but I'm not limiting myself. It's not an Ozone 11 tutorial. So yeah, there we go. That's what we're going to be doing. You can hear everything. Cool beans. We're going to be going over that. I am going to work purely on my headphones because streaming. What I would recommend if you're doing this yourself, monitors, more monitors down there, another headphones down here, like cross-reference as much as possible. The likelihood of a stream, I can't do that, but I will be doing that off stream, or I'll mute the mic. We'll see how we go. So there we go. If I keep coughing, apologies, whatever's going on. I've got a proper today, but is what it is. Let's roll with it. So we've got like the full edits of like a full. Let's just have a little loop and a little flip through the different types of tracks that we have got. I'm going to have to move this mic slightly because it's constantly putting me out of focus. Come on. Boop. Whatever. We'll roll with it. Who cares about me being in focus? Switch back to that. Beautiful. And there is the chat. So if you've got any queries, throw them in as always. So I'm just going to go through everything. As you can see, level wise, they're kind of all over the place. Some are a little bit quieter than others, is what it is. But nothing is pre-mastered. I mean, if I was to do this, see the massive difference in the waveforms there. So let's have a little listen. You see me reaching over here, I'm adjusting my volume, but your mix will always remain the same level. This is like a fool. This came out a long time ago. This is a different edit. It's got extra verses and whatnot and some breakdowns in it that weren't in the single. It was always designed to be the album and I've just never got there, what with COVID, moving house, all that other jazz. This we've probably heard on the channel. This is the title track on the album. More soulful drum and bass vibe. Album version of Do Right. This, I'm undecided on whether this is coming into the album or not. It's a really like, sort of out there experimental kind of vibe. I'm not sure on it still. The full edit of Feeling Heavy, so extra verses in there. Wait, we made that on the live streams at the start of the year. Longer days. And some interlude tracks. Alright. Very careful not to let everything escape all at once. So the very first thing is, well, go into all the tracks, top and tail them basically. Make sure we're starting silent, get rid of some of these really long tails where, like on Can't Walk Away for example, I've got loads of vinyl crackle left at the end in the render. it gives us the option to have a fade out to vinyl crackle if I want it, or I could get rid of it right up to the end. Whatever we decide to do, the options are there. All the tracks have got a little something like that left in. I always try and leave a little bit of silence at the start and at the end, usually a lot less at the start. Don't press play there because everything's in. So that's going to be the first bit. Kind of boring to watch, but is what it is and is what we need to do. So we need to make sure that we do it. So like I thought, quite a bit of silence at the start there, and we definitely don't need it. So we can roll that right in like so and have it so the track starts next to immediately, and still put tiny little fades just in case there's something in there we don't want. Pops and clicks, and we test it out. Happy days. That's like an immediate start right there. And we need to do the same thing on the end as well. So let's go and have a look at the end. And I find it easier if I listen to this first, because sometimes there's longer fade outs, but that does just end right there, just zoop. That is it. So we can bring it right up, like the precipice of that track. Tiny fade again. That should be like an immediate end, like that. All right. All Night Long is just a much shorter track. I thought it disappeared then. We need to do the exact same thing. Like I say, look, a little bit of silence at the start, very minimal, but it's there. So really, we can bring this in to sort of here. Again, give that a little fade and bring it right to the start. That might even be too much of a fade. No, right, cool. And again, right to the end of the track. And like I did just a second ago. Cool, so it looks like it ends here, but really there's still something here. We don't want to cut it short. I would say we can bring it to about there comfortably, knowing that we've still got the end of the track as it's intended. Maybe give that a little bit more. Ooh, no, we don't want to loop you. Thank you very much. Cool. Just gives it the right kind of ending there. Appreciate this can be like a tedious bit of work, but it's essential to make sure you've just starting everything off right and that we've got everything done right as well. So, okay, so that starts almost immediately right away. So I've not got very much silence in there like I like to have. It starts like here, look. We can probably just go right off tiny fades just to make sure there's no kind of pop with that starting. We're immediately in. Nice, real quiet, slow fade in, like that soulful D&B sound. So you've still got a massively different view to what I've got. Why is that? Can't see everything that I can see. Let's have a little butchers it. That and that. So we do that and that. That. Boom. Missing a tiny little bit on the right, but you got a better view there. Okay. So that's good. That just ramps up nicely into the track, into our little soulful Mohican Sun style D&B vibe, which was, well, basically what I do. So have that easing off here, and we've got a bit of that crackle at the end there. And I think it feels about right out there. So I'm actually going to put a cut in here and get rid of that, and then a tiny little fade just there. Once we bring the level of this up, that crackle is going to be a lot louder. Morning, Andy. Cool. So yeah, we've got many more tracks to go through. I think what I will do shortly, so we're not just top and tailing the whole lot, is perhaps begin doing something for my own sanity. Let's top and tail do right first, since we're there. That starts almost immediately, but it should have a tiny bit of silence at the start. It does indeed. So there. Again, we can give that a little fade, just to be sure, and it feels like an immediate start still. And we'll just check the end as well. It should only be a little bit on there. Happy days. And we'll just have a listen to where it fades out, because as we've already seen, sometimes there's a bit more. And where it feels right is about there to me. That seems weird saying feels right because it's going into silence, but if it was to just start the other track immediately, it doesn't feel kind of right in the flow of things. It needs to actually get to silence and have that kind of moment pause before something else begins. And there feels about right for myself. Right, we'll have to remember to top and tail everything else as we go through, but I ain't going to sit here and do all 14. We get the principle right. We can start with like a full, since it's at the top, and then we'll work out flow and everything later. What would probably be a smart idea would be to start with All Night Long, actually, since that's going to be probably our guide track for the album. I'm 99% certain that's going to be the named track of the album. So album probably going to be All Night Long or something to that effect. With that being like the single, we're working on the video for that already. So it makes sense to get the loudness and everything for that spot on and then level everything out to that, since it's going to be like the key feature track. So we'll bump you up to the top, even though it's like the shortest tune. Let's not play everything at once. Plenty headroom on this. It's not particularly loud. So I've gone over this tune a fair few times with the Ozone tutorials lately. I've got a rough idea of where I want it to go and things that can benefit in it. But let's have a look at it. I think we'll just use Ozone. Might look at using the SPL iron compressor on it to glue everything together. It gives a really nice sound, but I don't think we need to do much else. I'm going to start off with the assistant on this. It does a really solid job. However, I want to get a correct loop. Yeah, that's the right part that we want. And we'll let the assistant do most of the hard work here, setting things up. It's so good at finding resonances, it's unreal, to be honest. Going to game match it right away because that was bashing my ears far too much. Now this makes it way too bright, way too bright. I'm going to do a bigger loop over the track here. The first thing I'm always undoing, I don't know why it's doing this, but it wants to add low end all the time, but like in the sub there's nothing there doesn't need to be anything there, so I'm just going to cull that band right away. I just want to listen individually to what each element's doing. This clarity element's ridiculous, like the power it adds. The stabilizer we'll use as a cut, and the maximizer could just sit on for the time being, but I want to dial it back a little bit. It's going to be game matched anyway, but it still affects the overall sound and how much it's being slammed. So master rebalance, what are you doing? Okay, it's added, oddly enough, 0.8 dB to the vocal. Okay. maybe that's a bit much. I'm in kind of agreement that it can lift up. However, when we compress and limit the track, it's going to bring those vocals up a bit anyway, and they pop out fine. It's not as if you can't hear every single phrase. So I'm going to compromise there because I kind of like it, but we'll do it to 0.4, so about half of what it was saying, literally like half a dB up, if that. EQ wise, it looks pretty extreme, but the biggest boost here is 2 dB and not even reaching 2 dB on the biggest cut. It does a really good job. My opinion is it's pushing 5K too hard. This band here, if I'm to disable that, and potentially that, that's too much. But what it's capturing there, that area, quite harsh as well in places. So my bet would be that up here with the dynamic EQ, yeah, that it's taken away some of the harshness with the dip up here. So we're going to take that to about 1 dB instead. Jump back to here. I just want to see the tonal balance. Okay, that's why it's given loads of. It's trying to lift it up to here. Now I think pop works really well on the whole album. I can probably stick to this pop kind of curve, and doing that curve across the whole album. Like, I'm not gonna stick to it religiously. As you can see, it's going to move in and out of it, but having that approximation, that kind of ballpark, should help keep like a cohesive element to the entire project. One track's going to still feel like and sit in the same area as another, ideally, which is kind of the idea of the tonal balance. Not entirely sold on this dip here. I like the kick punching through more like that. I see why it's there. It's there trying to control the low end in terms of this. What we can do, we can also pop tonal balance on the master, and we can have the full size one up. You're in here somewhere. Balance control 2, hopefully. What we'll have to do is put you on up. And it's still within the threshold, really. Cut it. We might use multiband compression. I'm going to jump into impact. Impact, what I recall, isn't doing a whole heap on here. Or it wasn't last time we adjusted it. So in here, delta. That's the difference it's making. We're ducking some bits, accentuating the kick drum. So that's the EQ's gone and taken it out, and then they've put it back in with impact here. You're more than welcome, and yeah, there are always rooms for improvement. That includes myself. I'm just doing what I can. I still recommend everyone send your tracks out for mastering, but I like doing it myself. And since losing Stu because he retired, I've done all of my own, and I like the process. It can be hard being objective with your own tracks though at times. That doesn't need to come up as much because we've taken that EQ band, we've decided not to use this, we've still got the kick punch in there. This is now bringing it up too much, so we can dial that back. And the adjustments are absolutely tiny now, like less than a decibel in any direction. To be honest, that's negligible. I can barely hear a difference. I can't imagine on the stream it actually gives a difference. It does, just helps the kick drum punch through just that a little bit more, so we'll leave it in. We're still sort of sitting nicely within our balance overall. Yeah, I've gone way too much on the big subby low end, but it's supposed to be. Imager, we're going to be looking for some damage control essentially. Are there any problems? I've looked at this track already, like I said, but the low end should be perfectly correlated, even though it looks wild in the not oscilloscope. Or is it oscilloscope? I can't remember. Will you tell me there? No, you won't. Whatever. Either way, it's right on +1 the whole time. It has the slightest bit of movement, which means it's never going to phase cancel. So even if I check it in mono right now, we hear the same thing. We're never moving out of phase. So low end wise, we don't need to fix anything. If it was pushing down here near 0 and potentially going to like cancel out in a sum to mono, I'll just drag this down and make it mono. But I've done a good job in the mix and made sure that's not the case. We can leave it and we can have that bit of width every now and then. It's the other parts, and this is just progressively widened it and widened it. And if I remember, I kind of disagreed with this. It was phase cancelling in places. We narrowed that right back. I'm going to narrow those tops back as well a little bit. But here, this range here, I'm just going to leave the default ranges. It's done a great job. That spread's actually really nice. Now there are times this gets to almost 0. If we let the whole track go though, do we lose anything is the key. And when it's sum to mono, we can still hear every element of the track. It sounds good in mono, which means when we flip it to stereo, we're in a good place with that. As I said before, you'll see me like reaching over this way a lot. I'm adjusting my mix, so it's really low down. So if I do boost something up by 2 dB, it really pings, especially if in the high end. But every now and then I'll spin it up so it's nice and loud, and flip it back down. If you're working at home and not on a live stream, absolutely use your monitors, flip headphones, all sorts. For the time being, I'm going to get as close as I can in headphones doing this, and I'll check on monitors and everything later when there's not a microphone hot in front of me. Morning, Ride. Hope you're well. Cool. terms of low ends, nothing needs to be fixed. We've really spread out that upper mid here. And it gives a nice effect, and we don't lose anything when we sum to mono. So we know we can play back on the mono system, club system, everything's still going to be there and translate nicely. But when we're in stereo, boom, we've got that big spread. We don't need to use recover size or anything like that. It's all there, it's all present. That's all we need to do in there. Without it, nice stereo mix, isn't it? And switch it on, just enhances, and we know that there's no issues that are being brought in by that enhancement, and we've had no issues to fix, especially the low ends, what I'm usually looking at here. Now the clarity module just kind of does some magic. I know I'm going to need to dial it back. It always sets it to 25% and it's too much. It does a very good job. So difference here. That's cooking that high end a bit much now for me. And actually you can see it in here, starting to break out of our curve here. And that just tells me that my ears are telling me the right thing. I tend to find myself dialing this back to like 18 to 20. And if it cooks the high end a little bit too much like that, I'll tilt it. And if we use the tilt here, it'll push it more towards the mids. And that balance around there sounds pretty nice. Still says we're a little bit out in the high end here in terms of tonal balance, but it sounds good. We're actually going to control some of that with a stabilizer in a minute. Now the other thing here on this kind of music, the attack at 100s may be a little slow. Maybe bring it down somewhere between the 20 to 40 range. I've actually found with this the release of 100's fine. 86 is a great range at this BPM. And you can hear that affecting the snare a fair bit. So even at 100, it's kind of pumping the snare a little bit. And it's releasing a little bit quicker there. It's amazing what 15 milliseconds can do to a particular part of the track. If we hit delta, we can hear what clarity is actually doing. It's adding and adjusting so much, it's kind of ridiculous, but it does such a good job. Okay, stabilizer, I'm going to use basically as control, and it's going to help me control any harshness. If you remember right back on the EQ here, we've lifted up this area and it's pretty essential if we take it away, even though it's only a dB. Key focus on the ear, but there's some harshness in there. Stabilizer, I'm going to put into cut mode. I'm not going to really use the low end on it at all. That can be dialed right back. But it's just going to cut out key moments right here. I'm going to dial this up a bit. Doesn't need to take that much out of the mid, so I'm going to dial that back, or its response back. I crank this up while I can hear it, but you should still have good level. And you'll hear it catch the harshness we could hear, especially in the vocal. Those are the weird, horrid tones it's taking out. I think this is most useful personally in cut mode rather than the shaping mode. Like a similar plugin is Soothe, which is it OEK that makes Soothe? I don't fully remember. I think it's them. Horrible little tones. It's just pulling those back a few dB automatically for us. No, Ozone 9 doesn't have half these modules. Ozone 9 was a very good tool, but the assistant was not great. The assistant has set most of this up for me in 11. It's ridiculously powerful. Ozone 9, very, very good. Doesn't have a lot of these things. The stabilizer in cut mode, ridiculously powerful. Clarity, ridiculously powerful. We haven't even looked at the fact that we can do stems. I'll probably have to use that later on another track. Yeah, it's well worth the upgrade at this point. Right, dynamic EQ should be the last thing that's going to pull that dynamic range in the top end for us. And I want to show you, if I haven't shown you before, the way it fixes resonances. So I've not set any of this dynamic EQ up. If I grab this and I solo it, pretty unpleasant frequencies in there, and they're being controlled very nicely automatically. Like the assistant setting up the dynamic EQ is a massive time save every single time, and it seems to nail it every single time as well. Now what I think we're going to have to do is take this and control this quite a bit more. And I might bring iron compressor in to glue all this together. It is quite a step up from 10. It looks like it's a really minor difference and upgrade from 10 to 11, but the things it's added, like I mean, simple things like having delta on every module, so I can hear the difference a click. Having access to stems is ridiculous. Yeah, it's a big step up. I think it was advanced to advanced was 99. Yeah, you're paying 99 for a plugin, but honestly, I paid like a 150 for Pro Key 3 when that came out. So for the amount of tools you get in it, in my opinion, it's a bargain. And you could carry on using 9, 10 or 11 for years and years if you wanted to. So for me, just adjusting levels, having a listen, that's dialed in pretty nicely. But now, bypass with gain match. Things I like about the original, but I can't deny that the balance is better overall here. And that's just me being biased to my own mix, probably. I have to say, right at the start, for anyone that missed it, Ozone put in a vocal adjustment. When it's bypassed, to me the vocal sits perfectly fine. I can hear every element. However, once we've lifted everything up, there is a little bit of masking on the vocal happening. Where we've lifted up that high end, it kind of isolates a bit more of the I guess you'd call it the mid-range in the vocal. So we can use master rebalance. We'll give it a little bit more back. I can't remember if 9 had this. I think it did. But I'm now isolating the vocal in that master track, even though it's a 2-track, and just bringing it up a little bit. Okay, there's one other thing I'm going to do that I can hear. So right after even the dynamic EQ here, we're going to use the other EQ. So EQ2. I want to take it from analog, I'm going to switch it to digital. The reason I'm doing that is it's linear phase and I'm going to work in mid-side, so I don't want a phase discrepancy with what I'm going to do. I'm going to switch that into mid-side, and I want to find part of the vocal that I can hear being slightly masked, which I think is going to be around here. About there, so just around 1K. And I want to lift that up really subtly in the mid, out there. And on the sides, right, that's what I can hear. I'm going to take away some of the low end here on the sides. We don't need it. There's something going on with the mix, it doesn't quite sound right. So I'm going to put a high pass in, nice and flat. Just take that up around to here-ish. Maybe not so steep on the slope. If you can't hear what that's doing, really focus on the kick drum. When the high pass isn't in, the kick drum's kind of a little bit flabby is the best description I can come up with. And this just helps tighten it in by taking it away in the sides. There's no issue, there's no phase correlation problem. But it's just a little bit, you've got this kick coming up in the sides that's flabby, it doesn't need to be there. Once it's taken away, the kick's way more sort of in the middle, which, I mean, it is only in the middle, it's been taken away in the sides. To me, that sounds better. So I'll just A-B it with you focusing on that. Taking away all that in the side. What I am tempted to do is move this module back before the imager. This is a real nice focus. Take it down a little bit further. That's nice. That just really gives a focus onto the low end. Now if we were to look in the imager now and look at the low end, I'd imagine, there you go, correlation's just like absolutely smashed, but we still get a little bit of that sides happening up in this higher range where we've brought the filter down just a little bit so we can still have that kind of play around. But if you listen, the kick drum's gone. Almost. Okay. I'm going to bring iron in and kind of glue everything together, I think. Or at least I just want to hear it with it in. I feel like we need an overall compression sound on this track. Currently there's actually no compression apart from the maximizer, which is limiting. But I feel we need the sound of a compressor. I like to reach for the G bus a lot, but I also do like the SPL iron, which hopefully is in here. There it is. Press this is now the thought. A random channel as well. I do like the channel effects this gives as well. I hope that translates for you over on the stream. It's only 2 dB of compression, right? But the whole track just now glues together, it sticks together, it feels cohesive. That's what I like about this. So we're using the GE. The GE is the circuitry inside the iron. It has multiple ones you can use. Attack, relatively fast, but not too fast. Sometimes up here is going to be better. Sometimes here. It depends on the content of the track. If it's really brake heavy, I'll make it even slower and let the brakes really get through. Super fast release. Releases all the way over here because it doesn't make sense. Yeah, that's it. That's all we really need to do with that. So now we need to look at loudness and the overall. At the minute, it's not particularly loud at all. And we are going to need to crank this up. Like, I'm not going to go for a lost target, but somewhere in like the -9 ballpark for the whole album's probably going to be about right. That's where we're going to sit with. Be a case of deciding what limiter factor we want to use as well. I usually find transients the best. What I make. Put transient emphasis on. I'm not liking the soft clip here. Some people are well up for soft clip, but 10% is way too much. I don't know if it's just me, but the hi-hat's now sitting too much up in everything. That might be the case of the transient. Definitely different with modern. I'm going to go back. I'm potentially going to control that in dynamic EQ. Figuring out where it is. Not that low down, it feels really quite high up. It must be here. Right around there. It's going to have to be quite narrow and dial it back a good amount, I think. Not doing the job for me. That. been working on this for a while now, so probably starting to lose some objectivity, so I might look at coming back to it at a later time. But gonna be alright. That's gonna be ridiculously loud, but we're going to take game match off to get an idea. I feel like that's going to get pushed too hard, but let's find out. My volume's right down. This is going to get loud for you lot. Oh, chat's frozen. Sorry Josh, I missed your question because my chat had froze.
I would run to make love. I was on the marathon. Heal me, I get my thrills. I thought you were the right one.
Yeah, so I assume you saw the bit where I was doing the stabilizer. That was in 10 stabilizer. And yeah, it does a job very similar to Soothe. Soothe arguably has more narrow bands. And I mean, if you put them side by side, they're going to do a different job, but it does the same principle. If you're really after something that does something similar to Soothe but hasn't got a really fancy GUI, if I've still got it installed, Tokyo Dawn Labs, de-edger, this guy right here, the most simple like UI. I don't remember how much this cost me. I've been using it since about 2015. This does a really, really, really good job, similar to Soothe, at just taking out harshness. In fact, let's pop it before iron here, and we'll see if we can narrow down like that hi-hat frequency using this example. Put it in mid-side because it's definitely right in the mid what I'm hearing. So we can do focus listen, and then we've got a band focus here to find what we're after, right up in there. Got a cue to decide how big that band is we focus on. I'd say that's fairly the region that's a little harsh that I'm not liking. Then the depth control is how much we take out of that area. Now, I'm not worried about it not being harsh soloed. Here's the difference. Much, right? Really focusing on that hi-hat, but for me it's sat like up here. A little too much. Widen up the band. Higher, it's not higher. In that 4 and 5K region. The edge is definitely not as good and detailed as Soothe, but it does a similar job. It does it well. I get my thrills. I thought you were the right one. Right summed, right independently. Harsh with it. What I'm going to do is take 2 ticks, fill up a bottle of water, and let this run through. Get an idea of the overall LUFS and so I've got the meter in here, we've got it set to integrated. Let that run through. Give my ears a rest for 5 minutes or so, and then I'll be back. Sounding good. Like we're in the right ballpark. Loudness wise, I said probably about -9, -9.1 that I'll take.
I've been waiting all night long. No matter what, I'll still be here. I couldn't have thought it more wrong.
I'm going to move on to another track with vocals in called Light Me Up, on the basis that this album version of it needs to be way better than what I originally put out as the single, because I'm just not happy with how that sounds. Something I do need to look at as well is this will primarily be released on streaming. Need to make sure we've got true peak and we are not, that's bang on. We need to make sure that true peak wise we're not in a nasty ballpark, and we might need to give ourselves a bit of extra headroom, so we're definitely peaking at -0.1. It's recommended a decibel of headroom, but we are true peak limiting as well, so we should be in a nice ballpark, but it's something we need to make sure we check. I don't think I'm going to get to that today, going through all these tracks, and I've been streaming for about an hour. So maybe a part 2, like a final listen through. Let's now have a listen to something different finally, and get an objective ear on that. So let's go and grab. Where are you? You're definitely in there. Light Me Up. Much easier if I just make them small and then top. I didn't get as far top and tail in this, so just make sure we top and tail it real quickly. So, good practice, a little bit of silence at the start. Let's just play. Happy days. We can take away about half of that silence. Give ourselves a little fade and bring it into the start. So we should now be starting a lot quicker. Super low for my level. Cool. Alright, and we're going to check the end, which looks like I've been a good boy and left some silence in there too. Cool, nice little fade out to the end. So we can bring that, don't you loop, you stupid thing, right the way in, and we can have a really tight ending on that. And pause and then go straight into something else. Sweet. Happy days. Waveform wise, we're looking good. There's some cheeky peaks in there, but that's what we're here. Right, let's have a bit of a listen. Can't remember if I'm happy with this mix or not. I know that the final mastered single I'm not happy with anymore, but I was at the time. That's life. Make sure I don't blast my ears. Nice and low level so I can survive streaming. Excuse me, have some water. Okay. Not too bad. Maybe not your type of music. Use the Ozone 11. I have been for the last hour. You mean specifically on this track? Yeah, I'm going to start with the assistant, if that's what you meant. Interesting to see what it does with the low end and the vocal anyway, so we will roll with that. And will the assistant do the thing right off the bat? and gain match it. Okay, so it's gone the opposite direction of the last track and it's actually made this duller. Only minor, but it has made it duller. Let's have a look. Look, that EQ curve. Again, I've said it's doing this every time. Below 20 Hertz, giving a lift. You don't need a lift below 20 Hertz ever. I don't know why. It's the one gripe I've got. So go in, delete that band, arguably put a cut in there. Madness. No AI. You're gonna have to be clearer, dude. I don't know what you mean. No, yeah. Okay, this big old sweeping curve, giving 1.5 dB of gain. Probably not. We're just going to disable the rest of these modules so we can listen easily in isolation with what's going on. Okay, I hear what it's going for here. A big boost in EQ, I don't think it's the way to do it. And this could be a nice little learn, pretty ninja technique that we can do. You're saying use Ozone 11, no AI. Why would I not utilize a tool that sets things up like the dynamic EQ absolutely perfectly for me when I've got another 9 tracks to do and the last one took nearly an hour? Right, one thing. When we're mastering, pretty much always looking for issues. This down here, we don't need this. This is below 20 Hertz. And there's some big wobbly low end going on in there. So this would be a case to actually use a high cut below the 20 Hertz range. High pass, sorry, not high cut. Something that I wouldn't normally ever really be reaching for necessarily, like top and tail, but in this case, 12 dB slope, 20 Hertz range might actually be valid. There's all this going on down here. It's coming up as low as -6. It's not going to be audible. It's not going to translate on the system. It's just stacking up and it's not needed. What's impossible with AI? You're making no sense. Right, so I'm agreeing with the scoop out here. Things are maybe a little harsh. I would be inclined to do it in the dynamic EQ instead though, because it doesn't always need to come out. I'm basically saying no to both of these EQs, so we'll get rid of those. And a stabilizer might also help us out in that situation. All that's happening here, yes, just let it have that high end, and we need to take out things below 20 Hertz range. Sounds warmer. What with the boost down here sounds warmer. I agree with you. And it definitely brings out the bottom end a little bit more, and the kick and the snare are more present. But I'm going to do something different. And I'll show you how I'm going to do that in just a sec. So we are going to add another module into our mega chain already. I'm going to put the exciter in. We're going to bring that all the way down, just after the EQ here. If we look at this, it's covering, like, it's right sort of in 500. It's going all the way up to 2K, all the way down to 100. It's like half the track basically getting bashed with a big boost. I don't agree with everything it's lifting up. What we can do instead of lifting it up, we can fill that harmonic range out instead. We can bash ourselves 2 points in here, and we've got this range here, which is what it's covering. And then in here we can do this. Like that. Now we're getting all of that warmer sound with a little bit of harmonic distortion instead. But because we're multi-banding it, we're not adding a bunch of low end and we're not affecting our top end balance. Also, I can control exactly where I want it to be. So there's your warmer sound without adding a bunch of EQ. Tempted at around 5k. I'm tempted to have another band here and crush our vocal a little bit into it as well. We can mix things up here. Now analog, if I remember rightly, analog's nice and subtle. Like I can put it up to 15 here and it doesn't distort. Let's have these in context. Right. There's your warmness and your lift. We've not adjusted the whole profile of the track, we've not added a big EQ boost. The vocal sounds, I mean the vocal's not thin, it sounds less thin when this is in. It's distorting the like middle range of a vocal. Distorting everything else as well. And what I dislike is what this is doing to the stereo field, but we can fix that as well. We're going to go mid-side, hopefully, yeah. So it's left the settings on the mid, hasn't put them on the side. Now the sides, the like poppiness of the snare is not getting all distorted, it's there on the sides, fine. But the whole mid's been lifted up, right? I like what we've done there so far. Impact, I don't know why it's on, it's not really, what's it doing? Right, my one criticism, and I gave this in feedback for Ozone 11, the delta is down here, in some it's up here, in some it's over here. Delta needs one location. I don't think Impact's doing anything, even if I crank my volume, what's that doing? I'm going to leave it disabled. I'm not hearing a difference. disabled for now. Maybe come back to it if we want to adjust those drums without looking at stems. Something else I've kind of not mentioned is I would reference usually. I can't play. I've already had one copyright strike this week. I can't play any music over YouTube that isn't mine or that I've not got the licensing for. So that's a little irritating. I would usually, and I will, off of stream, reference everything that I've done to something else. Hopefully not undoing all of my work. Something of interest, if we look at our tonal balance over here, the other track sat quite nicely in this range. Here we're lacking. Around 600, which is where that EQ boost was. Here's the thing, maybe we put the EQ boost back in before the exciter. We narrow it down a bit. It's more that 600 range. Never blindly follow tonal balance. Use it as a guide. Ooh, why have I got a big dip there? Is it something I should look at? That has done the right thing. It's immediately noticeable once that's gone. I still don't know what no AI, impossible with the AI guy was on about, but here we are. Alright, Imager. So, issues, number one, it reckons there's nothing going on in the low end. What do we think? On the drop, we are nicely correlated, even though it looks wild. We sum to mono, still there. Even a boost around here, that I'm probably going to disagree with, but let's have a listen. Me, that's just muffling the vocal. Yeah, definitely not. A bit lower down though, for sure. For sure. This range here. That I think we can push all day long. We're going to sum to mono. Push that like crazy. It even technically will phase cancel at some points, but we sum to mono. We don't lose anything in the track. Top ending as well. I'm going to spread that. Everything's still there, vocal's still on point, snare's still on point, I hear all the elements. Nice big spread. That's nice. What about the whole track though? If we sum the whole track. Everything's still there, and spread. Ooh. Okay, no, the strings are still there. That was just timing on my part. The strings definitely come back a lot more though. That could be an issue. Take these away. Strings are getting lost pretty much either way. It's not something I can go and necessarily correct at a mastering stage. Still there. On the sum to mono, they're definitely not as impactful. That actually enhances them. So out as much. Dial that real top back. About that. And got nice correlation. No issues going on with the low end. Nothing getting lost anywhere, some to mono. Happy days. Again, I don't need to use recover sides, we're not losing anything. Alright. Right, clarity, the magic module that I always end up dialing back. Right, it's actually done the tilt itself. Found a song that was too bright. Take that release down to about 80. Attack at about 40. Just going to use the filter here because it, for me in my headphones, it's giving loads of air when there's already loads there. It's just not needed. So I'm just going to dial that back, probably to like 10k or so. Let it focus on that vocal range. Ignore those hats and top end. It does add a fair bit of focus, but it needs to come back a bit more. Literally like 10% of this in. Really, really subtle changes here because the balance here sounds nice. Everything's in focus. I'm just not happy with the track anymore. When we switch it on, it just gives a little bit more focus in that, like. Stabilizer, I want to do similar to what I did in the last track, but a lot more control on the top end. The low can literally come off in this instance. If you want to cut, you can see it's doing a lot more work than last time. See, look, deltas over here on this one. Let's find a location for them. Maybe tame transients as well, you know. To lose as much in the mid. Okay, to hear what this is improving for me, listen to the drums. There's like some double step toms and things I've got happening, just like a little rumble in the background. Now at times they pop through and take away from other things in the track, especially up in the right here. This is suppressing those quite nicely with the tame transients on. So let's have it off. Hopefully you'll be able to pick them out with the ear. There, just then. Let's loop that section. Right here as well. And with the stabilizer on, just muted just a little bit more that they don't distract from the rest of the track. You still hear them, they're still there. I like what that's doing. I think that's a nice way to keep everything focused on the idea and the main point of this track without being distracted by a little percussion sound off on the right that's not particularly part of the music, if you know what I mean. Dynamic EQ. We know that's going to be doing a good job because this is ridiculously good. Okay. Oh yeah, okay. You know what, that can come back even further. Oh, that's pretty amazing. We're going to narrow that band a little bit more. Dialing that back there has helped the top end, that wum 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 of the bass stick out a little bit more because it's not being masked by this not particularly sexy frequency right here. This. When that's in, that draws your focus away from the top of that bass. When it's gone, that's impressive. Again, the AI set these up. The only thing I'm going to listen for is, I think, some harshness around like 5K. There. Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe just below 5K, about there. I want to suppress that by as much as a decibel. All the time though. It's when the big vocal kicks in the most, it needs to come out. It's nicer for me. Especially at a louder level. It's not as harsh, not as grating on the ear. It's just something in there that when it's loud, my ears don't like. But just suppress it just that little bit and I can listen to it louder, a little bit longer. It's still a nice balance. I think I've been going for what? Hour and a half, getting on for 2 hours. I'll have to rest my ears for a bit. So if there's anyone in with questions or just wants to Q&A for a bit, I think we'll do that. If not, I'll just take a break. Let's see how 1 and 2 translate against. I think I may well do. Bring iron in again if we need to. We've still got a game match on, haven't we? That'll be why. Let's see what we're like. Similar ballpark. Just a bigger, brighter tune overall.
No matter what, I got it more on.
I've been so many times.
I lie awake, sit still and wait. Well, I've been waiting all night long.
You can be my stars, my moon.
I feel like this is getting pushed quite a bit louder at the minute.
Light my way. You can
Probably.
start.
Probably.
I've been walking through a hell. Light me up, light me up. You can be my stars, my moon. Show me how, light my way. You can be my stars, my moon. I've been walking through a hell. Light me up, light me up. You can be my stars, my moon. Show me
I wait, sit and wait. But I've been waiting all night long. No matter what, I'll still be here. I could.
light me up, light me up. You can be my stars, my moon.
I'm just going to try pushing this with something other than triode. Just listening to that. Oh, we've got some nice like tonality in that area. What I think we could do with bringing up in here. Still not sounding very warm. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at. I think that's probably the way to do it. That's too much. You there?
Wait, sit still and wait. Well, I've been waiting all night long.
Show me how, light my way. You light me up,
Be so quiet.
light me up. You can be my stars, my moon. Show me how, light my way. You can be my stars, my moon.
Too much.
I've been
That.
walking through a hell. Light me up, light me up.
Make the balance
Be
potentially come from there.
show me how, light my way.
No matter what, I lie awake, sit still and wait. Well, I've been waiting all night long.
You can be my star.
I mean, I'm definitely not going from this song into this. There's going to be
Me up,
a build up into the more upfront D&B.
No matter what,
They're in a similar ballpark,
I couldn't have got it more wrong.
but I'm now struggling to hear minor differences because I've slammed my ears for the last 90 minutes. I mean, 2 hours really, because I did a bit before coming on. So I need to either take a break for a bit and come back later and make sure we've saved this project. And I'll do some Q&A with you lot if there's anyone here with questions. If not, I'm just going to sign off for a bit. So if you have got any quizzes real quick, let us know. Well, I'm going to let this play through for a bit and just get an idea of where we're at luffs for the overall tune. No, don't change, thank you. Right. I'm not going to carry on working on the track, but I have just noticed something that's super important to mention. So, ever talk about true peak and like loud tracks and compression? We should be limited on this track right here, maximizer, right, to minus 0.1. However, we've managed to peak to plus 0.5. And that is because true peak wasn't on and we've got an overly slammed track. So yeah, we've got a limiter on, but we've actually exceeded 0, which means if I was to have this as a master track, we might get away with it as a like 24 dB 44.1 master file. That went onto Spotify and hasn't got the right headroom and has been slammed. Even at minus 10 LUFS, so the overall average there integrated, you get distortion, you'll get clips, and it'll sound gash in places. That is why true peak and headroom is so important, and letting your track run through and measuring. Now, we're going to lift this up probably another 2 dB as well. So that could clip by, the true peak probably wouldn't exceed any more than that, maybe a dB. But it's why it's so important to have that headroom and check these things through. And it's why when I have the fight all the time on friggin' YouTube, people saying you don't need to worry about that headroom and you can leave it at minus 0.1 and you don't need to have a dB of headroom, and minus 14 LUFS is always too quiet and you want to go for minus 6 LUFS for drum and bass. We've seen a problem here right away that we need to address and make sure we're correcting with true peak and checking the whole track. And we're only on track 2. Didn't have an issue with the first one. This has shown up something. And that is super, super important. I don't even need to be listening to know that's an issue. So true peak on, I'm going to be looking to add a little bit of gain. So I can bump that up another dB or so there. I'm going to do the same compression that I did on All Night Long. So what I can do is bring iron over, duplicate that ozone. Now I've set the maximizer up. We can have that maximizer there, and we can make sure it's taken off this one. Save that. And settings wise on the compressor will probably be relatively alright, mixed to a similar level. BPM, dial back the threshold a bit there. I'm going to come back and listen to this in a bit. I'm not just setting it without listening. I'm ready for when I come back to it and listen over to it, because I want that overall. I want to send this whole album through at least one thing, and for me it's probably going to be the iron compressor that kind of glues the whole album together in the same way every single time. So I stuck with that on All Night Long. I'm going to stick with it for the rest that need that bit of glue. This needs it as well. It should help it with that little consistency and lifting everything up as well. But for the minute, I'm now going to go take a break for maybe 15 minutes or so and then potentially come back. But for now, I'm going to end the stream and we'll carry on from there if anyone wants to join. So I shall see you all in a bit. Take care and all that jazz.